watch and listen to this. Please watch and listen. Do not forget to share after watching. Watch and listen.
Today is the 17th of March 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. You're welcome to Views on the Continent on your Pan-African channel, Africa Media. So today I have one topic for you, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to focus on what is happening in Africa, particularly when we talk about the coronavirus and the way the disease is spreading around. It has been called a pandemic by the World Health Organization, and so we're going to focus on that. Today we're going to talk about the impact, the economic impact this disease is going to have or affect African countries. We're going to look at how they are surviving. We're going to look at how they are trying to prevent what is happening, and then the losses they are going to make. We don't know when this disease is going to end. We don't know when this thing is going to end. Countries are shutting down their borders. Most of African countries, you should take note, that trade particularly with China. And since China closed their borders, things are no more coming in and out. Import and export, everything is slow. Prices have risen in the different areas. We have even scarcity of sanitizer, hand sanitizers, and even face masks and other things that people need in order for prevention. So there's going to be a huge economic crisis if this thing continues, particularly for the African continent, because they rely a lot on China as that is one of the highest business partner in the year 2020 and even 2019. So today we're going to look at the economic impact this virus is having on the African continent. So I present to you my panelist. He's in the studio with me, and he's an economist. So since we are talking about the economic impact it's going to have on the continent, and he's going to give us more details on how if countries are not careful or if they don't handle this thing well, how far can it go and what can people do to sustain themselves if the borders are really shut down. What can they rely on? How can they do to supply themselves? And probably another benefit, because probably if the borders are shut down, then the countries will need to have to produce their things internally to be able to feed themselves till when this is over. So ladies and gentlemen, this is what we are talking about today. I have Mr. Edmond Kyote with me in the studio. As I earlier said, he's an economist. Good afternoon to you, sir. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Emmanuel. Good afternoon, all the televiewers. It's my pleasure to be here again today to talk about this threat we got in the whole world. And we're going to focus on the impact of this coronavirus. The United Nations call it COVID-19. We're going to talk about the impact on our economy in the continent. Thanks for inviting me today.
Thank you for comment. So let's just go straight away to watch this video or this report, which is done by one of our journalists, Regina Sondo, on the economic impact which this coronavirus is having on the continent. When we come back, we're going to continue with our debate.
While some analysts argue that it is too early to start analyzing the effect of the deadly coronavirus disease on African economies, the number of reported cases around the continent contradicts the allusion. Already, the World Health Organization says 29 African countries are affected, with 417 confirmed cases. The dystopian reality of deserted airports, empty trains, unfilled workplaces, thinly occupied restaurants and snack bars is already badly hurting economic activity in African countries. Economic analysts say the longer the pandemic lasts, the greater the risk that the sharp downturn morphs into financial crisis. In other parts of the world, including Africa, calls are growing for policymakers to offer similar state support to the fragile corporate sector. No matter what the policymakers do, the outcome is now up to the coronavirus and how soon its spread starts to slow. Almost all African governments have publicly put in place strict screening at points of entry, especially airports. Cases of coronavirus have been confirmed in Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, Senegal, and Nigeria. African airlines have cancelled scheduled flights to China, except for Ethiopian Airlines. By paralyzing the world's largest importer and second consumer of oil, this virus attacks the heart of the global economy. China accounts for more than 16% of the world economy. With China stopped, economic activities around the world are directly and indirectly affected, as if the coronavirus hit globalization at its heart. The World Health Organization has advised against travel restrictions and also identified 13 top priority countries in Africa, which are Algeria, Angola, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Mauritius, Nigeria, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zambia, that are of higher risk due to their direct links and high volume of travel to China. Health systems in many African countries are already struggling with their existing workload and are likely not prepared to deal with another outbreak of a highly infectious disease. So it is critical that African nations work hard to detect the virus very early and prevent it from further spreading.
Thank you very much, Regina Sundo, for that report, giving us details on the impact this disease has on the continent. So let's just talk about it. So far, many African countries have been reporting different cases, and we have Cameroon, I'm hearing, it's gotten up to 10 already, and other countries are reporting new cases day in, day out. How far do you think this is going to go?
One of the problems with the coronavirus is that nobody can actually, not even the medical sector, they cannot, accurately confirm how long this is going to stay. That's one of the problems we got with this crisis, COVID-19. Nobody can tell you that within the next 2 or 3 months this is going to stop. Nobody can tell you that, with accuracy. It's impossible, and that's what makes it again worse in the economy. Because economy is all about how we
exchange, moving up and down,
we plan things, and then we planifications. So if we cannot plan that within the next 2 or 3 months or within the next 6 months, this is what is going to happen.
We can produce this amount and sell.
It makes it very difficult. COVID is a health crisis, but which is having a lot of impact in the economy, not only economy, security too. And you saw what, if you followed the speech of French president yesterday, he said we are in war, and then you saw all the measure, all the resolution that they took, and the first resolution all countries, all government are taking is confinement. When we talk of confinement, it means we restrict the mobility of people.
Yes.
We confine people in their homes, and the first consequence is that we're going to have a slowdown of industrial activities. And when you have a slowdown of industrial activities, it simply means the 2 pillars of the economy are going to be affected. The 2 pillars of the economy are production and consumption. If you cannot produce, you cannot consume, and both, and vice versa. If you cannot consume, means that there is no need to produce. So, like I said, the first measure taken by the government is to confine people, is to tell people stay at home. And when they cannot produce, it simply means many goods are going to be very scarce in the market very soon. And when there is scarcity of goods, it means that very soon we are going to have speculation in most sectors. And when there is speculation, of course, there's inflation. Of course.
Prices are going to go up for basic commodities that people need to live day in, day out.
Very, very high. And when we talk of...
it's already happening.
It's already happening. And we were discussing about some basic goods like hand sanitizers, masks, and so on, which is...
It used to be 500 for the small bottle, and now it has gone up to 1,000 francs, like double the price.
And very soon it's going to be higher than that.
And people are still looking for where to even buy it.
Of course, because it is a necessity. You need it, because that is one of the way you have to protect yourself. You get to, you need this hand sanitizer at least to protect yourself, be able to, make sure you protect your hands and so on, and before you greet people and things like that. But it's going to be very, very scarce in the days ahead again, so it means the prices are going to increase. Yeah, that is a problem, that is a consequence, and it's going to be very, very hard on Africa again, because, economy like Africa are very, very,
they're not stable.
And we depend on a lot of importation.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Most of our basic commodities we import
come from abroad.
Yeah.
And one of the, the heart of this crisis is China. And
yes.
China is one of the places where we import.
The main partners when it comes to African countries.
Not only for importation but for exportation. I followed in the report done by the journalist, Regina. She was saying, which is true. China is the world's largest oil importer in the world. So if they stop importing, and when we talk, you see all the measures that have been taken so far, they are reducing the flight, no more flight, no more vehicles, no more, very, 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 restricted movement of vehicles. It simply means there is no more oil consumption. That's a problem. So
who is buying? So
nobody is buying. And since the beginning of this crisis, you have seen that the price of oil is dropping drastically. Today the Brent is already, I think $29 per barrel. When we talk of $29 per barrel, you understand what it means. We move from $60 per barrel to $29 per barrel. You understand? When all the government have already made their provision for the year. We have government here in Africa like Angola, like Nigeria, like Equatorial Guinea, like Togo, and so on. Their budget 80 to 90% depends on oil sector.
Exactly.
So when they have already made their provision depending on this on the price of oil, $60 per barrel, and then it cuts more than two. It cuts into two, so they have to see everything. They have to
we look the whole budget on how everything is going to go on in Nigeria and those countries this year. Which is very difficult and complicated.
No, that is very, very difficult. It has to affect the GDP of the country, and that's why they say most of the African GDP is going to be cut down into like 15%, like 20%. And when they talk of cutting down the GDP 15-20%, you understand what it means. Some people might not understand, but when they take you into details, how they make the calculations and so on, you understand that it is crazy. So that is it. So the impact is going to be very, very tough on Africa, especially those countries that are depending on importation, exportation, like Africa. Like I said, in Cameroon, for instance, we depend 80% on importation for our basic commodities.
Yes.
80%. It means we produce a lot of things that we don't consume, and we consume a lot of things that we do not produce. That is what it means. And if today, because of the confinement, because
all the countries are shutting their borders,
all the countries are shutting their borders, and because we cannot longer import those goods, you understand that within the next months, if it continues like this, it simply means in the market we will not be able to find things like oil, will not be able to find rice, will not be able to have bread, because we import flour for bread production and so on. It simply means we cannot be having all these goods. And imagine in a country like Cameroon, if you cannot have bread, you cannot have rice,
you cannot have oil.
Imagine what it's going to cause, as consequences. It's going to be very tough. So that's why I think our government has to do everything, and that's one of the problems. One of the weakness of our economy is that we don't have this perspective, to foresee certain things. We're not proactive. We always expect until things come and fall on our shoulders, and then we say, what do we do? And it's already too late. That's one of the problems we get in our economy. But I hope people out there, our government, our people out there in Yaoundé are doing what?
Yeah, we heard that the Prime Minister is chairing a meeting today in his cabinet with some government officials to come up with some decisions, and the meeting was supposed to start at 2, so we're waiting for, after the meeting there's a press conference, particularly in the Republic of Cameroon, and so after that we're waiting to get the measures. Most people have been saying that the border should be shut because majority of those who are coming in and those who have been recorded ill, and when these people get into the public and meet others, we know how the virus spreads. So people are getting worried about the fact that most countries, about more than 8 countries in the African continent have already shut their borders, but a country like Cameroon has not yet.
Normally, that is something that we should have done long ago. I don't know why.
Okay, so to you, that should have been one of the main measures.
Yeah,
because we saw Rwanda shut their borders immediately when they had about 6 cases. They're now going to have 20 or 30.
Normally, we should have done that long ago, because look, one of the things they have been doing so far is to put a team at the airport to take people's temperature, which is not normal. Because the incubation period of that disease is in between 7 and 21 days. Yeah. Here they say 14 days, but when you talk to specialists, they say it is in between 7 and 21 days.
Within that time, everybody you have met.
That is a problem. Imagine somebody who left like France or Italy, for instance, and then he contracted the disease along the way from his house to the airport. The day he arrived Cameroon, he has no problem. His temperature is normal, and you allow him to go free. But if within the 14 days he's been, greeting people, embracing people,
family members,
eating and drinking with people and all that, that means he's already transmitting disease. Between that time, the day he arrives and the day they realize that he's having a problem, he has already transmitted the disease to many people, and that's a problem. So I'm saying the adequate measure is to shut down the borders and to those who are entering the country should no longer enter the country, because one of the problems in Cameroon is that we don't have that infrastructure we need to welcome all the
adequate facilities to quarantine as many people as possible.
We do not have it. For instance, if today in Douala, like the town of Douala, if you have 5,000 people, if you have 5,000 patients, how do you do? Where do you confine them?
Yeah, those 5,000 patients. Where do you?
We
heard that they just recorded one case at the international airport in Douala.
Again,
and we know the number of people that are in Douala, and
of course,
if it goes wrong,
imagine that guy from the airport to his house. How many people is he going to grade? The taxi he's going to take, or the driver he's going to talk to, and the family members, and his family members too are going to embrace the other people as well. Imagine the spreading rate of the disease. So it's very. I think it is time we shut, like Africa did yesterday. They decided, they said, okay.
Gabon had done that.
Gabon did the same thing, and Rwanda did the same thing. Algeria, Egypt. I don't know what we are waiting for. Normally, we should shut our borders. Or what that is to me, that is the solution. We should shut down and then
try to control those that are sick inside, and then
and then try to control those who are already in, and see what we can do. Because if this take a kind of proportion that we cannot control, is going to be very tough. If already countries like China and USA, they have this huge facility to welcome patients.
People are dying every day.
People are dying every day.
One more.
Yesterday they are talking of 2,800 people in Italy dead. Imagine, that is Italy.
Yeah.
They don't
the way they have they called by all the retired doctors, but I hear the disease is even attacking the doctors.
The doctors themselves.
And so the doctors are dying. It's a really sad situation.
Imagine a country like Cameroon with very poor facilities and so on. How are we going to cope? So I think we have to close down our borders and so on, then control what we already have in. That's what we got.
Before we come back to still talk about the economy and the impact it has on the people, some people you go to the market and some people are saying we have a tropical climate, that's an advantage to us, and so people should not get worried. Should that really be it's an advantage, but should people not really be worried?
No, it's not an advantage. People should not be saying things that are not scientifically confirmed. We got to be very careful. At the beginning of the disease, that's what people were saying, that the virus cannot afford a temperature between above 24 degrees Celsius, which is not it has not been proven. Scientifically, it has not been proven that the virus cannot stand a temperature above 24 degrees Celsius, which is not true. Because I want to tell you that in Senegal, for instance, Senegal is above, I think it's the same, I think we are the same, we have the same climate, and it is even heater than Cameroon, but already we are having 25 cases confirmed in Senegal. So I don't think it is a problem of climate. No, we got to be very careful. Spraying this kind of ideas is very careful. People might say, oh, we don't care, it's none of our business, our climate is very good, the temperature here is between 37 and 40% and 40 degrees Celsius, so we don't have to worry about it. No, it's wrong. Let nobody spread this type of idea. only thing that comes from, you know, from the I mean, authorized people, you know, like physicians and so on, can be accepted, but rumors, mere rumors from the street should not be accepted, you know, should not be spread out. So I think people should be very careful. We should remain vigilant, because this is a serious case. When countries like Spain, like Germany, like France decide to shut down their frontiers, their borders, we should understand that it's very serious. And when they decide to confine their, you know, everybody, and to stop works, when you, I don't know if you followed Mr. Macron yesterday, the measures he took, he decided to, you know, to cancel all the bills, no more electricity bill, no more water bill, no more taxation office open, nothing. It means the whole economy is down. It's stopped for a month. Be very careful.
Catastrophic.
That is catastrophic. People should understand how serious the thing is. It is very, very serious. So people should not think it's a mere joke than to say, oh no, we are above.
It's for them.
It's for them. It's none of our business. We know we are safe here. No,
for once, you know, a lot of things affect Africa more than so people are saying, okay, it's time for them to feel the shutdown, and
because we had Ebola, they didn't care. We had
we always have malaria.
We always have cholera, and things like that. No, this is a serious case, and everybody has to be vigilant. It is a serious case, and we should not joke with it. It is true that at this moment we are not affected as France and Italy China USA. And USA, but it doesn't mean we will not be affected if nothing is done in that regard. We have to be very vigilant, and our leaders out there, ministers and so on, all those, you know, in charge, they should make sure they take proper measures to avoid the propagation of this disease in our country. Okay,
like the CEMAC zone has decided to organize a meeting too in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Journalists from Afrique Media, Big Ben Louis is there. He's attending the opening ceremony of the meeting of Board of Directors of the Development Bank of Central Africa State. They're indicating to me that we'll get that report in about 5 minutes time, that because he's there and he will give us details of what Bideak has decided to do when it comes to the economy. That's what we're worried about, and I think that is a good step that they are doing out there, to have a meeting to probably talk about the next step. So there's always a disadvantage and probably an advantage to what is happening, but the technicians are indicating to me that Bill is online and Bill is ready. As I earlier said, he's in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This meeting, which is scheduled to take place from the 17th to the 18th of March 2020 at the headquarters in Congo, Brazzaville, headed by Fortunato Cham. And so Bill is there. He will give us details of what is happening and what Bideak is doing as far as the crisis, which might affect Africa seriously if care is not taken. Good afternoon, Bill.
Hello and welcome to Congo. Your Pan-African Television Afrique Media is here on standby as we await the opening ceremony of the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Development Bank of Central African States, taking place here at the headquarters. Of course, a meeting which is scheduled to take place from the 17th to the 18th of March 2020. It's headed by the President, Fortunato and Chama. Among other issues which are expected to be discussed will be the outcome of the year 2019, the projects realized, the challenges faced, and what lies ahead in the year 2020. We're expecting that the Board of Directors will be discussing equally on the coronavirus, which was declared on January 12, 2020 by the World Health Organization as a global emergency. The virus has caused several countries to close their borders, and this is taking a negative toll on the economy around the world and equally around the continent, which of course affects some countries in the CEMAC region. We're expecting that the board will be discussing on measures which shall be put in place on how to manage losses which might be caused as a result of the virus. Among other issues shall be discussed here. The meeting for the first time this year, 2020, the Central African Development Bank in 2019 opened a line of credit to finance community projects for the benefit of countries in the sub-region. The financing of integrative projects within the Economic and Monetary Community of Central Africa, CEMAC, is of concern to the Development Bank of Central African States, BDRC, which places emphasis on promoting integrative projects with a view to strengthen regional integration. It is within this framework that the BDAC Board of Directors approved last December a financing of 126 billion CFA francs in favor of Cameroon, Congo, Gabon and Equatorial Guinea. The funds were mainly intended for the realization, rehabilitation and mobilization of infrastructure in the agro-pastoral, agro-industrial, energy, social housing and microfinance sectors. Despite the International Monetary Fund (IMF) during its last Board of Directors meeting on December 18, 2019, asking the Bank of Central African States BIAC to freeze its financial assistance to the BDAC, the latter does not intend to depart from its main mission, in particular the financing of infrastructure in the countries of the sub-region. Among other issues which shall be discussed here, Afrique Media is on standby and we shall be giving you other developments, the outcomes and decisions which will be taken as the different delegates meet here at the headquarters of the Development Bank of Central African States, known in its French acronym as BDAC, from the 17th to the 18th of March 2020. Stay with us.
Bill Luis, thank you very much for representing Afrique Media out there. So you just heard what is going on there and what are some of the major things they are discussing. What do you think? Do you think they are going to come up with concrete results that will help the continent when it comes to the economy?
I hope so. I hope so, because you got to understand that some sectors are going to be terribly affected. Like tourism, for instance.
Yes.
Tourism is definitely going to be killed.
Yeah.
And when you talk of tourism, you got to understand that we hotels activities, because if people can no longer travel,
who lives in the hotel?
Who live in the hotel? Nobody. So what sectors again? Transportation, for instance. If no more flight, it means
people
all the planes.
Stay indoors, so
people ask to stay indoors. It means all the planes are going to be grounded. No more transportation. If they restrict the mobility of people, it means trains are going to be grounded. Buses, all the buses are going to be grounded. All these things, and that's why you understand the problem with the oil sector. Because when we talk of transport, we talk oil mostly. If they cannot longer consume oil, there's no need to import oil. If they cannot import oil, there's no need to produce oil. So, and that's where many countries are going to be affected. I was talking of the countries that depend.
Like Nigeria, Nigeria is going to lose almost 14 to 19 billion US dollars in the next month if this thing is not controlled. And
that is nothing. If it is not controlled, they are going to
lose more than that.
More than that, because like China has reduced to up to 30% of the oil importation, and you know China that's very, very bad. And China is one of, like I said, is the world's largest oil importer. So if they reduce 30% of their importation, you understand that the countries like Angola, like Nigeria, they're going to be terribly affected. It's good for Cameroon. I'm not saying we are not going to be affected, but Cameroon is 20% of oil in his budget. You know, 80% agriculture and other sectors as well. You know, because if you take the GDP of Cameroon, for instance, is 40% services. That is bank, insurances, and so on, and then 23% is industries and 21% agriculture. I think that is how they have divided. Yeah, that's how the GDP of Cameroon is structured. So it means if we have problem with the oil, it's going to be terrible, but not as terrible as Chad, as Equatorial Guinea, as Nigeria, as Gabon, as Angola, and so on. Which budget is like 80 to 90% oil.
On oil.
Oil.
So if they cannot sell the oil,
it's going to be terrible.
They cannot meet up with anything.
At all. You see, the first crisis we got in 2016, I think it was 2014. Nigeria had a lot of problems. They were almost, at the running bankrupt, and this year, I'm afraid, with the COVID-19, Nigeria is going to face terrible consequences. Terrible. Already, their economy was trying to climb back, but I think with this COVID-19, it's going to be very terrible. I'm not saying Cameroon is not going to be affected, but the consequences are not the same.
Now we see that it is good that the president, Muhammadu Buhari, I think two months back, he decided to say the country should change and start concentrating more on the agricultural sector.
Sure.
Because then we didn't even know that the virus was coming. And I think that was a very good decision for the
exactly,
people.
And that's what we have always...
He encouraged inner production
and
agriculture in the country, and that they should eat what they produce. I think that is going to benefit them a lot.
Exactly.
If not, then they are really going.
And that's what we have always said. We have always told these countries, especially these leaders, which countries are depending more on oil. We've always told them, please use the extra budget you get from oil to diversify your economy, to make sure you boost the production on other sectors like agriculture, like industries, like things like that. If you depend on oil 89%, it means your economy depends on somebody else. Because if he says no, stop, even without coronavirus, if somebody says okay, stop, I'm not longer interested in oil,
I'm not buying from you again.
I'm not buying from you again. What do you do? I mean, and we all know what is happening in the world market. World market is very complicated. There's always speculation and things like that.
And there's always drop and the prices go
sometimes
up,
when these guys say, okay, we don't want to buy this oil again, they will speculate, they will create speculation, and then the prices will drop down. So we have always told these guys, these leaders, be very careful. If the price of oil is very good, make good opportunity, make use of that extra budget and diversify your economy and make sure you boost up mostly agriculture, because in Africa we lucky that we have what it
our
takes.
soil is good,
and fertile, very fertile, so we can develop agriculture very fast. We don't need extra things like in Europe where they are having very poor soil and things like that.
They need a lot of fertilizer,
just to produce very small, and that's why they always they all want to come and buy what we have here, because they say what we have here is bio, which is versus what they got there, which is very mixed up with chemical things and so on. So I think in Africa we're very lucky to have very fertile soil, so we can produce a lot of
things like this are probably it's a wake-up call for us to concentrate more on our good aspects and what we have as God-given gifts for us to use it more.
Exactly. So I was saying that there are a lot of sectors that are going to be impacted, like the tourism, transportation, and security too. Because imagine if within the 2 weeks, within the next days, if they tell people, okay, you confine at home, and be very careful, because people are thinking that confining people is the solution. It's not it can be the solution abroad, because yesterday when Macron was saying you people got to stay at home, he was already giving them some advantages.
You not pay electricity, you not pay water. Is it going to be same in Africa?
In Africa, who is going to take care of your bill? You got people in Africa that live day in, day out. When he goes out, he makes sure he got 2,000 francs CFA. That is what he got for the day. Is good. Every day he goes out.
He lives on his daily bread.
What he gets.
And so when it comes to stocking the house or keeping things,
that is the problem. He doesn't have even 10,000 to buy a bags of rice. I don't know how it goes. But a bags of rice,
about 25,000 now.
You got it. So it's it makes it very, very difficult, you see. So if you tell people to make some provision for their houses, it takes like 100,000 at least. I mean, just to make some provision.
Basic things,
basic, 100,000 is nothing. I'm talking about, but it takes about, if you want to make some good provision for the house, it might take you
2 weeks.
Like
more than 250.
250. How many people can afford that? How many? In our social things, how many people?
Of about 6 people, you need like 200.
You got it. You got it.
Buy the basic things that you need to run.
So it's going to be very tough. It's going to be very tough. So if you confine people, like 5 days, 1 week, and they don't have what it takes to stay indoors, how do you think they're going to behave? They're going to misbehave.
Man is an angry man.
He's an angry man.
To behave like animals.
You got it. They're going to misbehave.
Attacking others.
Okay, whatever you do, they're going to misbehave. They will have to
There's always consequences.
Consequences. So it has to do with a lot of security, and it's very bad. And that's why I say it is important for us to avoid having this problem, in our country. And that's why I'm saying that we have to close down our borders and avoid receiving people who are already having
the disease.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll be back with you in a moment. Let's take some calls. The numbers are on the screen. Those who want to call and participate, we're also live on Facebook. You just put Afrique Media TV and scroll down. You're going to see the program which is going on live. So we have Mr. Shu on the line calling us from Yaoundé. Good afternoon to you. You're welcome to the program. Hello?
Yes, the economy. Hello, this is Shu calling from Yaoundé. Yes, the economic impact of COVID-19 is great in Africa and Cameroon. Many borders of country have been closed, both air and sea, and people are restricted from entering into the various countries, and goods are also restricted from entering. So therefore, just the fact that borders are closed is a huge economic impact, negative impact on all the countries of the world. Look at what is happening in Europe. No good enters the US. African countries are yet even not to even close their borders. Some are closing their borders, and others are not closing their borders. So Cameroon, as a government, do not want to stop or to close the borders. We had multiplicity of cases of the COVID-19 in Cameroon. Today, I'm talking there are 10 now. The minister have just tweeted that 5 other cases have added, making the case to be 10. So, if people are thinking that Cameroon is a safe haven where they can run to, and those who are saying that's a safe haven, they are carrying the disease and bringing it to our country, and that will create another problem to us. We know as more people enter, the more the thing is multiplied in the country. Consequently, you have a great impact on the health of the people. I mean, many people will be affected by it, and many will die. Economically, the economy will be huge because Cameroonians, if Cameroon closes its borders, things will not enter again. But to protect the people, it is necessary to close the borders. Economically, yes, it will be a very bad effect in the economy of Cameroon and Africa. But if we close our borders, the aim is to prevent people from coming to our countries with the disease. And after some time, after 1 month, our other countries are experimenting. If the borders can be open, it will be good than letting people carry disease in the country. If you have seen the number of influx of Cameroon and Italy, crowded at the airport trying to leave and come to the country, you understand what I'm talking about. And most of them who are coming, many are infected, and they want to come and then they'll be quarantined, and some maybe smuggle themselves to the various places without checks, and you find that the disease will be spread. So my appeal is that the Cameroon government should lock all the borders so that people should not enter the country, because the war now is dangerous. Thank you.
Participating on the program. There's another caller on the line, Derek. Derek, good afternoon to you. You're welcome to the program. Hello.
Good afternoon, Manuela. Good afternoon to all viewers of Afrique Media. My name is Derek from Côte d'Ivoire. I would like to say that the coronavirus, or the coronavirus as it's been called in East Africa, is going to bring a lot of economic setback to Cameroon and to Africa at large, because China, as you've rightly said, is one of the greatest suppliers of electronic devices and spare parts, even cars, to Africa and to Cameroon in particular. Right now, if you see that the borders of China have been stopped for anything moving out, there is already shortage of many things in the market. The phones, the spare parts, the electronic, whatever you can name it, is already causing a great harm in the economic wise. You know, from the importation of such things, the custom and the country's taxation offices gather a lot from these when they are being delivered at the various ports of entry. And secondly, when we talk about these things coming in, they are being redistributed or they are being sold by small and medium-sized enterprises or groups. And once these things are not coming in, it means that there is certainly going to be a drop in the number of employers or employees actually in the market. And so you see that we are going to have a kind of a crisis, employment crisis, financial crisis in Cameroon and in Africa at large. So for me, I think the coronavirus, the impact is going to be so negative to us as a country and to Africa as a continent at large. My humble contribution from Côte d'Ivoire. Good afternoon.
To you, Derek. Thank you very much for contributing on the program. Let's take another caller before we come back to guests in the studio. We have Mr. Valentine on the line. Good afternoon to you. You're welcome.
Emanuela, good afternoon. My take on this coronavirus invasion in Cameroon and the world at large is a very serious affair that has helped to affect a lot of activities as far as trade and economy is concerned. Considering the fact that China is a major supplier of Africa, the fact that everything is halted right now in China, it has affected the inflow of materials, and therefore the price of products will definitely rise. That's why you see we are suffering today, because there is an increase in the price of almost everything in the market, because we don't have excesses of the supplies of those issues from China. Now, other people are also quarantined. Activities are cut down. People don't fly in and out of the country again. This is another deficiency that it has affected the trade, because there are no people also to bring goods into the country and also to take goods into different locations. Now that most nations have cut down the inflow of other immigrants into their country, it's something very delicate. I want to say Cameroon is suffering from this thing because we have not taken proper time to give some drastic measures against it. You know, countries heavily infected right now are South Korea, Iran, Italy, Britain, France, America, China, and a whole lot of countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, they are also affected. Cameroon has recorded the 10th case today, which, if at all proper measures were taken initially from the very first or second case, we wouldn't have arrived where we are today. But what I want to say is this: if nothing is taken care of as fast as possible, we are going to have casualties in this country, not just in the area of the coronavirus, but almost every trade activity will be affected, because when markets are shut down, schools are shut down, airports are shut down, you discover that the consumers who are supposed to be the ones to consume those products will be left aside. First and foremost, not be available, and secondly, will not even have the products available in the market. Then you can start seeing that a little thing like Omo that we could get for 100 francs could rise to 300 francs. So there is always a deficiency when such dangerous calamities launch or faces international communities. That's why I say this coronavirus is something that must be given a rapid and immediate attention. If not so, it will crumble down trade activity, because according to health laws, sometimes places that are heavily populated are supposed to be avoided. Like in Cameroon here, for example, you go to Ndokoti, where that kind of environment is heavily populated. If such a virus is in the atmosphere, they have to automatically dislodge that crowd from there. Marché Central is the same thing. Now imagine if the poor are supposed to buy and not come into the market, and those who are supposed to sell and not come in the market, it will definitely crumble trade activities in the country. So we call upon the government of Cameroon to make sure that they do everything possible to shut down the entry of our borders from other nationals and even our Cameroonian brothers who are still out of the country. They should maintain where they are until this particular dilemma is being treated. If not so, we're going to face a lot of casualties in the few years or months to come ahead, because the way the virus is spreading is a serious concern, and I think it's not just a Cameroonian problem, an African problem. It's a problem that's going to affect the entire world at large. Thank you.
on this topic. So we heard the government of Cameroon, the Minister of Health sent out a communique that they are calling back all those who were in the Brussels airline, which came in some 2 days ago. And some people are wondering, like, they don't have their numbers, what is wrong? And because they saw some of the people who were inside, some government officials who attended some large ceremonies, and people are worried that, of which the minister had announced like 3 days before, that anybody who comes in right now is going to be quarantined. But
14 days.
Yes, for 14 days. But we see what happened that they let these people out. Meanwhile, the last case which was recorded, that's the 5th case before the 10th one we have today, was from that airline. And so that means everybody on that airline had to be quarantined. We'll have some top government officials who saw them attending some ceremonies when it was said they were inside those airlines. Do you think this is a careful thing to do?
That's one of the problems we got in Cameroon, is that nobody respects anything in Cameroon. That was a good measure taken by the Minister of Health, by the Health Minister.
He's working alone.
And that's the impression we got so far, that this problem is the problem of the Minister of Health in Cameroon all alone, and that the whole government is not concerned. But until today, we have heard that the Prime Minister is presiding over a meeting with all the members of government, and at the end of this meeting, they will be able to come up with proper measures, to control the disease, the propagation of the disease. But you've just mentioned a case that almost shocked me also, because when the minister said that people coming from countries like France, Italy, where the disease has proven to be very, very dangerous, they should be quarantined for at least 14 days. Now, we know that some top officials from Cameroon, like the President of National Assembly, was in that particular plane of Air France. And we were surprised to see him a day after presiding over the works in the National Assembly, and embracing his colleagues and so on, shaking hands with him and so on. I don't understand. The wife of the Canadian Prime Minister was declared, she was confirmed affected by.
She's positive. Her husband was quarantined.
And also 2 ministers in France, they were quarantined as well. I don't understand why in Cameroon somebody should be thinking that he is too big not to be quarantined, and I don't understand. If you are coming from a risky zone like France, and if the measure is that you should be quarantined for at least 14 days, because 14 days is the incubation period. If you have the disease, if you have the virus, before the 14 days, they will be able to know if yes or not, and what to do. You're positive or negative. Why don't you respect this time? But you go and embrace people, you go and shake hands with people, eating with people, and so on. What if at the end of the day they realize that you've spread this virus to many people? What will they do? That's the problem in Cameroon. So I think we should learn how to respect some simple instructions that has been put in place to protect the life of many people. We should learn that and forget about our titles, president, minister, governors, whatsoever. We should forget about this title. This title cannot save somebody's life. This title never saves somebody's life. If we have said people coming from risky area like France, Italy, US, China, and so on should be quarantined, should be confined at least for 14 days, the time which is appropriate to know if positive or negative, respect it, no matter who you are, no matter your social title, no matter your whatsoever, your official title. Forget about it and respect the instruction given by the Minister of Health, because this is for the good, for the betterment of the whole country. Now you spread, if at the end of the day they realize that you've spread these things to
because everybody in the parliament that day were from different regions, and so all of them have traveled back to the
and people were coming and shake hands with him, embracing him and things like that. Welcome back, Mr. President, and so on. Now, and these guys, after they will go and also embrace members of their families, travel back home and things like that. Eating with people, drinking with people and so on. That is not good. I think we should learn how to respect simple instructions that have been put in place for the betterment of the whole country.
What should people turn back to now? We know that in probably the day is coming. We don't know what the decision that the minister and the government is going to take in general after these. But what should people hang on to? Because now, if the borders are shut, there's shortage of food, and so people should probably turn to their families. Or what should people hang on to? Because people need to have things that will help them stay calm. And probably if they say people should stay at home, children should stay at home, they should have things to occupy their families so that people don't get crazy, because this type of things always make people always go off hand. So what should they turn back to when it really comes to food?
I think one of the things that people should do, very important, is to be psychologically prepared. It is very, very important, because this disease, unfortunately, is coming to disrupt our mentalities, our culture, because now already embracing, you know, in Cameroon, to show your love and affection to somebody, you have to kiss him, you have to embrace him, you know. And even when we greet people in the street, the first thing we do is to embrace people, to shake hands, and so on. This is our culture, it's part of our culture. That's how we share our love and affection and consideration and respect. But we got to understand that things have changed, and if somebody doesn't embrace you or take your hands, don't take it bad. Don't say, oh, this guy is not longer considering me, or, you know, things like, no.
What does he want to show?
What does he want to show? No, please, we have to understand that our mentality will change, whether we like it or not. This disease is imposing a lot of things on us that we don't like, that we don't want already. When you see in the countries like France, people are restricted, people are obliged to stay indoors.
US, when they ask people, they have days now that they go out to buy, and they say everybody one for one.
Exactly, exactly. Things like that. Yeah. It's not because you hate, you know, your neighbor or your brother or your sister. It's not because it's not because of hatred. No, it's simply because that's the way we have to do, at least to restrict the propagation of this disease. So people have to understand that people should be psychologically prepared, because that's one of the problems. If you do not accept something, you know, if you do not integrate something, that it might be very difficult to implement.
We see people still dying for HIV and AIDS.
Because they don't want to accept it. I mean, psychologically, it's very tough. You know, it's very tough on them. They take it as a burden, and they don't want to accept it. So they have to be psychologically prepared and accept to fully implement and fully comply all what the Prime Minister, because I'm sure very soon the Prime Minister will have a press conference where he will announce measures decided internally by the government to, you know, to stop the propagation of this disease. People should, I'm sure they will definitely restrict the movement of people.
We have the Shanda Cameroon was preparing.
It's already postponed. It's already postponed. And I'm sure the Prime Minister might announce, I'm 50% sure he will say that school will stop, will close down also. We have to understand that, I'm sure, because we are all parents, most of us are parents. Yeah, people have to homeschool their children now. We were running toward the end of the second term. We have to understand that's what it is. They might also restrict. I know there's one thing that Cameroonians love the most. Of licenses, drinking, you know, going to the bars and drinking, things like that. I'm sure they will also stop that. They got to understand, because people should not say, come on, it's too tough, we cannot stop drinking. No, I think they got to understand that. And also
when it comes to food, probably people should get back to farming, because everything will not come.
Of course, those who have their farm, they should make sure they boost their production. They have to boost their production, because very soon many goods are going to be very scarce in the market. Like I was saying, rice might become very scarce, flour might become very scarce, therefore we'll not have bread, we'll not have cakes and all those things we used to have very cheap.
Mostly for breakfast. People need to turn to breakfast.
We get to change our mentality completely. We get to understand that our mentality should completely be modified, and that there are certain things that we were used to that we are not longer going to have. Like you were saying, good breakfast with good bread and things like that, you know, and some other goods as well that we're used to, and a very good, very affordable price. Most of them are going to be very scarce, or if they are available, they are going to be very expensive. We got to understand that.
And people need to save because you don't know how long this thing will go.
That is what I said. That's one of the tough problems with this disease, is that nobody can foresee how long it's going to stay. Is it 2 months? Is it 3 months? Is it, everybody is saying, oh, the first measure is for 30 days, renewable. Obviously renewable. It means if after 30 days there is no solution, there is no good perspective, it simply means they are going to renew it again for 30 days.
Sometimes on the street I see people laughing at others when they are wearing their masks. I think people should really get out of that.
That's why I'm saying they should.
There are still some people who laugh at others.
Yeah,
I was coming to work and one where the guy was putting on his mask and somebody said, what are you claiming? Do you think the disease is
that is a problem? And they are looking at him as a subject of curiosity. You know, like, what does he want to show? He doesn't want to show anything. It's good to get used to this pretty fast, because very soon that is what everybody will be imposed, if at all he want to go out, to step out. Else you stay indoors, and I don't think people can afford to stay indoors 30 days, because like I said, we are not in the economy where people used to plan everything in advance and then have food for 30 days in advance. No, we in Cameroon, like I said, people are living day in, day out. Today we go out, we earn 2,000 francs,
and that's what we
feed on, and tomorrow take care.
We're almost at the end of the program. I'll come back to you. Let's take the last caller there. They're indicating to me that we have Mr. Ashu on the line. Good afternoon to you. That's the last caller for the day. You're welcome to the program. Hello. Hello, is Mr. Ashu still on the line? Hello? Okay, I think
that the world is experiencing the Third World War. And the consequences of this war, I think, shall be more than those of the First and the Second World War combined. You are right to know the consequences on the African continent, especially with regards to the economy. But I would like to tell you that it is not just Africa, but the world at large. Remember, China is like the lungs of the world economy. There is no world-class enterprise today without a warehouse in China. And where this outbreak started, called Wuhan. Wuhan is the economic hub of China. Consequently, the fall of Wuhan, or the fall of China, is the economic fall of the world. No sooner than later, we start counting the losses. And I want to tell you, the losses will be immense. Will be immense in monetary terms and in financial losses. Okay? I don't think there are up to 3 African countries who don't deal with China in trade. Now that China is shut down, it simply means there will be an economic slowdown. Remember, no projections, no statisticians saw this coming. Predictions were done based on the price of fuel and all the like, but nobody saw this coming. So this is a new calculation that economists shall go back on the drawing board to rewrite economic projection of not just Africa but for the world in the next 5 years, because the effect of the coronavirus shall be felt in the whole world in more than 5 years. Remember, the first victim here is the human capital. When human beings die, who are the ones to produce? So the time it will take to rebuild or to replace this human capital. If I should take sector by sector, the first sector that is being touched is the maritime transport sector. There is another sector that so many companies in that sector are going to wrap up, the insurance sector, most especially those in life insurance. Imagine, as of today, we have about 10,000 dead, and a life insurance company lost just 2,000 clients who subscribe who took a life insurance policy and most especially the guarantee on death. That is huge loss. The insurance and the reinsurance sector is in deep shit. I mean deep shit. Well as the maritime transport, because as it stands, so many shipping lines are out of service.
For giving us your views. We're at the end of the topic. Last words for the people on how probably they should be careful or something. Just
please follow the instruction that will be soon. I mean, those who are, I'm not talking only to Cameroonians, but those who are in other countries, please follow the instruction given by the government.
It's not a joking matter.
It's not a joking matter. It's not a laughing matter. It's not just like somebody is trying to play a joke on you and things like that. No, it is real. It is serious. Coronavirus is a serious case, and everybody has to remain vigilant, and everybody has to avoid being the vector of that virus, please, because the virus is not moving by itself. The virus is being carried by men. So please, let not be vectors of this virus. Let us do what we've been instructed to do by the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. Today it was another day. Tomorrow you're going to also be with another journalist on another topic. I want to thank the technicians behind the camera. So have a beautiful week in our company. God bless you all. Hello, you're on the program. Good day to you, sir.
I very appreciate it. I very appreciate all what